On Tuesday, April 16th, a forum on housing, sponsored by the Federal Home Loan Bank of Boston, met at the Kimpton-Taconic Hotel in Manchester to hear from some of the bank's officials about programs they have in place around financing housing development and mortgages and investments to enable more housing to be built to meet the needs of the moment. It's no secret that there's a shortage of housing, especially in the cost ranges that most people can afford, both here in Vermont and elsewhere. Several of the bank's officers got the meeting launched, which was attended by about 50 people, many of them involved in the financing or development side of housing, with an overview of what they could offer.
A big part of everything we do really is speaking with all of you to really talk about all the different ways of forming partnerships to meet the housing challenges in your communities. And that's why today is such a valuable forum for us. And you really represent, I think, all of the components of the community development ecosystem. We've got lenders, we've got community developers, we've got land trusts, and other municipalities represented. This is our slate of community investment programs that we're going to run through at a pretty good clip. But we will spend a little more time later this morning talking about some specifics around the affordable housing program. That's our competitive grant and subsidized loan program to develop income-targeted affordable housing.
Issues like zoning and permit reform, construction costs, labor costs, supply chain issues have all been associated with why housing costs so much and is unaffordable for many people. But there are other factors involved as well, which some of the speakers at the forum touched upon. The keynote address was given by Nancy Owens of Evernorth, a nonprofit organization serving the low and moderate income people of Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont with affordable housing and community investments.
And so I think we get to ask the question, or we need to ask ourselves, like, what does our current system tell us about who belongs and who gets to decide who belongs? And when it comes to new multifamily housing being in our neighborhoods, which is my life's work, I see it all the time, the deciders are very often the single-family homeowners who already have a home. I mean, it's like, I think the home ownership rate in Vermont is like 67, 70%. So you go to a meeting to talk about building new multifamily homes and everybody in the room has a house. So we have a lot of influence over zoning decisions and permits and appeals in our communities, and people, all of us, in different ways, we see again and again people speaking out against density, against taller buildings, against buildings which are, not in character with the neighborhood. But if we want more affordability, we need to welcome more types of housing.
She was followed by a panel and audience discussion, which touched on several of those problems and opportunities, as well as some of the longer-term and broader cultural questions involved in housing.
Nancy, and I really appreciated some of the other people speaking, specifically around culture, around race, around where we're at, and really keeping it real. I really liked your statements, Nancy, about, we hope that Vermont would be here, or that we are this, but yet we have a long way to go and a lot of work to do. So what really inspires me is people acknowledging actually where we're at and the need to actually do more work to get to where we need to be. What really motivates me is, we're not doing introductions yet, but I'll say that I identify as a Black Indigenous person who was born and raised here in Vermont and has 4 generations living here. And so for me, as a fairly recent homeowner, I want to see more people like me be able to access not only home ownership, but to be able to be living in homes, renting homes that are safe and where they can find dignity and to have their cultural needs met. So that's what really motivates me.
My name is Seth Leonard. I'm the Managing Director of Community Development at Vermont Housing Finance Agency. What's a word that we commonly use to talk about housing in? It starts with a U.
Units.
Yeah, units. That one always bugs me because it makes it sound like we're building housing for the sake of building, that we're counting units, we're counting things that are getting constructed and built. At the end of the day, what we're really doing is trying to build homes in our communities, right? To provide homes for people in our state. And when we humanize it in that fact, and we think about the numbers of what our need is in Vermont right now, we We need somewhere between 25 and 35,000 homes in our state today. That's how many homes we have missing in the state of Vermont today. If we want to house every Vermonter who's experiencing homelessness, if we want to have a normalized vacancy rate where people have choice about where they live and can find an affordable apartment, if we want to replace the 300 plus homes that are going offline in our state every year because we have an old housing stock, and if we want to allow for Vermonter to have new Vermonters, right? We are right now the second oldest, second whitest state by most measurements in the entire country. When you look at demographic trends, by 2036, the United States is going to be we'll have more people over the age of 65 than under the age of 18 for the first time in our nation's history.
We're ultimately going to sell our 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom townhomes to our community members for the price of $169,000 for the 2 bedrooms and $189,000 for the 3 bedrooms. So I don't do math in front of people. I wrote the numbers down if you're curious, but the gap is it's over $350,000 per home. Those prices that we're selling them at are affordable to households at under 80% area median income. And in exchange for that lower price, our buyers are agreeing that when they choose to sell, whenever that may be, it may be 30 years down the road, they're choosing to share 25% of the appreciation and value of that home from the time they purchased to the time they sold. That way, Champlain Housing Trust takes the 75% of that appreciated value and keeps it with the home, so that home will be affordable to the next buyer. Just a brief shared equity by the numbers. We have 679 homes in this program throughout our service area. And over our 40-year history, we have seen 1,322 resales. So we've helped over 1,300 households become homeowners through the program.
Afterwards, we had a chance to hear from both Kat Briers, the executive director of Shires Housing, an affordable housing developer based in Bennington, and Theo Knoll, the programs and outreach manager of the Federal Home Loan Bank of Boston.
I mean, I'm just so grateful that the Federal Home Loan Bank of Boston, takes the time to come out to the community and share their programs. Shires Housing has made incredible use of the AHP program, the Affordable Housing Program. We actually are part of the awards that were just shared right now. We just got an award for our Arlington Village Center rehab, so that's to reinvest in our existing portfolio in Arlington Village, 30 units of affordable housing, getting that reinvestment, staying the staple in the community that it always has been. So that is coming from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Boston's AHP program. But today hearing about new innovative programs they're developing to utilize CDFIs that serve our region to bring down even more capital into communities to funnel that into housing. Just really exciting to learn about that and line ourselves up to take advantage of it and invest that in our communities. So we already know that construction's expensive, but then this timeline that it takes to actually develop the housing just adds to that cost burden. So I think there's growing awareness about that challenge, and we're thinking about how to rethink our regulatory processes to reduce that timeline, work collaboratively with municipalities and other community partners that have real estate, that have opportunities that can accelerate the timeline, because the housing need is so urgent and the cost is so great that thinking about ways to accelerate opportunities to go from conception to actual housing is an opportunity that I think average people can engage in around policy regulation in your local community statewide, but also identifying opportunities and working with local developers to accelerate those solutions.
What prompted your bank to want to have a session like this here in Manchester? Is there something about what's going on here that attracted you to schedule one of the events here?
It's a great question. We are a regional wholesale bank, and we serve banks and credit unions and insurance companies and community development financial institutions all over New England. And so it's really important for us to have a presence throughout New England and to meet people where they are. So we're here in Manchester, we'll be in Lebanon, New Hampshire a little bit later, and throughout the rest of New England as well. I think the issues and the challenges are the same. They vary in degree, but we were really struck by the general high cost of housing here in Vermont, which is in a lot of ways comparable to other parts of New England. There are sort of equal opportunities and challenges in Vermont. One of the themes of today really was collaboration and shared responsibility and re-envisioning community and sort of stepping into community values. And that seems to be a real strength in Vermont, that there is a lot of partnership, there's a lot of people willing and wanting to work together, and that includes financial institutions, the banks, the community, the credit unions, all the community lenders, because they live and work here and they're committed to providing access to capital and helping to be a partner in housing solutions.
As everyone who has followed this issue already knows, developing housing that meets the needs of people of all income brackets is a serious problem, both here in Bennington County or in the rest of Vermont, and everywhere else. And one thing is certain, working towards solutions to these hurdles will require more time and effort. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.